morning, viewers, and welcome to another edition of the Economy and Politics Show, where we discuss socio-economic developments as it affects the populace. And today, on the very first day of March 2021, we will look at a very interesting sector that's continued to create opportunities for Nigerians. That's the arts and entertainment industry. We'll be discussing repositioning the arts and entertainment industry as a growth driver in Nigeria. And joining me to lead this conversation is Mr. Atunyota Akpobome. You all know him as Alibaba. He's a creative industry expert and, of course, a pace setter for Nigeria's comedy industry. Nice to have you on the show once again, Mr. Alibaba.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I guess you must have looked at the last report of the National Bureau of Statistics on Nigeria's growth rate. It showed that the motion picture, sound recording, and music production segment, subsector of the economy, grew at 2.5% and the full year 0.03%, which of course is a positive. But the arts and entertainment grew at minus 1.52%, that's fourth quarter 2020, from minus 4.67% third quarter 2020, which shows there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the sector. I just need your reaction to this growth report. I mean, we all know that the music, motion, and production has continued to be a key driver, but arts and entertainment still needs a boost.
Well, the thing is that what has changed the dynamics really is COVID. COVID has affected everything, and it has given rise to new platforms. And the people are beginning to embrace these new platforms in different ways. People are going online. People who were not even on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter before are now getting drawn in. So that is one aspect of the whole thing, and it has put a strain on people whose creativity were greatly affected by COVID. Movies can't be shot as they used to be. Yeah. Interactions have been reduced. The number of people in a gathering has also dropped. And so planning a concert or having any event has reduced greatly. Some people have resorted to just having a court wedding than having a grand reception.
Yeah.
And of course, this trickles down to all the people and ancillary services that are rendered in the sector. So allied businesses who survive in the sector also have been affected.
Yeah.
And that also then affects the baseline of economic values for everybody that benefits from the society. The printer who will do handbills and flyers for somebody's show will not get that kind of event, that kind of deal anymore.
Yeah.
The interior decorator that decorates January 1st will not get that kind of deal. The person who makes clothes for ushers, you know, these ushers wear Ankaras at many events, and so the fashion designer who is selling all of those will not get that. Now, some of these ushers are using those monies they make from those ushering jobs to pay for school fees, take care of their parents.
Yeah, so definitely.
And so most times, the security outfits that provide security to entertainers and to event centers would also not get jobs. So it trickles down in many ways. And if these people do not get an intervention, it just means that they would hang low for a long time. Don't forget that most of the people who work in this sector survive on seasonal events.
Yes.
Even those who are in the movie industry. I've spoken to some people who the last movie they shot was in 2017, and they were expecting by 2018 or 2019 they will get one movie. And the person doesn't get a movie in 2018, 2019 COVID comes, and by 2020, all through 2020, the guy doesn't get any movie anymore. And so for 3 years, he's not been on any payroll. How does he survive? He has children, he has families that will demand money from him and demand that he takes care of them. So that's the issue.
I mean, the trickle-down effect is what you really said, and the impact is there. But that doesn't take the fact away that this is one sector that continues to provide opportunities for Nigeria's revenue diversification. and even the job creation.
It's the second, if I can jump in there, it's the second largest employer of labor.
Definitely.
And as the second largest employer of labor, it mops up a lot of the people that cannot be employed by
various sectors, professional sectors.
By structured environments. Structured environments we're talking about. There's some people who have these creative skills, couldn't go to school to acquire it, but they have it anyway. And there are people who even drop out from structured environments to come and take roles in this unstructured environment and are making it.
Yeah. And that brings me to the committee last year, the federal government, to the Honorable Minister of Information, Culture and Tourism, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, set up a COVID-19 committee to look at the industry, which of course you were chaired. And recently, there's a report from FBI and Quest Research published on ProShare, which I believe you read through, and part of it said that about $9 million, analysts said about $9 million have been lost to the industry in 2020, and approximately 50,000 jobs also, which, like you said, largest employer of labor. What was the outcome from that committee scope and mandate, and are there steps to implement the recommendations? Because at this point, like you said, interventions and steps to ameliorate the impact on the industry, like we see globally. You mentioned some countries last time, and even what groups like Netflix are even doing to support the creative entertainment industry.
Okay, quick one was that we worked for nearly 2 months on that project and unearthed a lot of issues. One of the issues that we raised was the fact that there were parts of the industry that even the government did not know were parts of the industry. Textile designers. So you have people who graduate as textile arts. They graduate in textile arts design from Yaba Tech and all those people. They are part of the creative sector. But what employment will they get when they finish? Asabatex is closed down. Aswani and all the other textile companies are closed down. So you are now importing all of those. So these guys have this ability to design fabrics and textile, but they have no job. When our report was submitted, it was actually the first time some people who are ministers got to know how deep and large the sector was. Because our report was inclusive, it was elaborate, and it covered quite a lot of ground. In fact, when one of them said he didn't know that architecture was part of the creative sector. I said they design, they're part of the creative sector. Now, the fact that it's a very strong sector in the economy, in the real estate and housing sector, doesn't take them away from the creative sector. So there are a lot of people who then began to see the depth of employment, the extent of employment in the creative sector. You see, when you tell somebody that, oh, Alibaba has a show or Basket Mart has a show, what they see is, oh, Basket Mart has come to collect money. They do not see that the person who is providing the stage or building the stage is benefiting from that show. They do not see that the sound engineer will benefit from the show. They do not know that you are employing 5-8 people who are going to come take care of light. Your cinematographers, you probably would have about like 7-8 cameramen that work for you alone. But on the red carpet, you're providing content for a lot of media houses.
Yeah.
Beyond that, on the day of the event, some people would buy outfits to wear. You're helping the fashion industry. People do not see all those trickle-down careers. All of these are dependent on this same creative sector. And so by the time all of those were elaborated, a lot of the ministers then saw that there was need to intervene, but the plan that they had to intervene mildly, now was changed to they had to do something immediately. They had to do something bigger than what they planned before. The intervention is going to be huge. It's going to be more effective than what. So they're working on it. But I would say that a great impression was made by the reports that were submitted.
I mean, that's a remarkable work from your committee, and again shows how critical the industry is, because, like you rightly said, it unearthed a lot of things. People now know that there's a lot in the value chain and the ecosystem. Like you rightly said, hosting a January 1 concert, I always look forward to that concert, the comedy concert that you host, and the interesting vibe it brings. It has a whole value chain alone. So I mean, that unearthing is critical. And of course, the fact that the policymakers who planned a mild intervention have seen the need to expand it. We hope that that intervention will be holistic and will help to unlock opportunities in the industry. But let's look at the Bankers Committee, Central Bank and the Bankers Committee, are taking a look at rehabilitating what I remember several years ago, we had a conversation with you and Pascal, and you said that National Theatre needs to be rehabilitated, transformed, and brought back to glory days.
Yes.
The whole creative industry. We're seeing this step by the government, the Central Bank of Nigeria Bankers Committee. The Lagos State government received it with a lot of excitement, enthusiasm, and of course, the Ministry of Information, Culture, and Tourism are also working in that regard. So, from your industry, discussing with your industry colleagues and players across the whole value chain, how are you receiving this, and is this intervention going to really enable more investments into the industry, considering the importance of the whole?
Let me first lay a background to why the National Theatre is how it is. One, the National Theatre is part of it was part of a military grandstanding. Okay. Part of a military grandstanding. So military built the National Theatre to host creatives all across Africa. And they did it at the time that we were excommunicated from the Committee of Nations because we were a military government. And they had money. Oil money was everywhere. And the military said, let's show them that we do not need them to do anything. So they organized a festival of arts. And to host that, they had to build that edifice. Now, when the edifice was built, it served the purpose the military wanted. It drew Africans together. And to further show how powerful Nigeria was, we built First Stack Estate to accommodate the people that were coming into Nigeria, just to show that we did not need any foreign partner, we did not need any international organization for us to live our lives. But immediately the point was proven by the military. The purpose was served. So they did not see any need to invest in it anymore. And so it started to deteriorate. And it is the same thing with universities and all that. They built universities so that we could also show that we are the giant of Africa. But after all of those things were built, maintaining them became a problem. That was the same thing that happened with the National Theatre. We had television stations, we had telephone lines before a lot of European countries. The National Theatre was bigger than even the one that is in Dubai now. So we built a theater that was bigger than most countries had. But you see, all other countries continued to develop theirs, enhance that, prove that creativity was important, and also extend the value proposition of the sector. But ours, it was to serve a purpose, and immediately that purpose was served, it was abandoned. Now, what this present government is doing is that government has seen that they actually do not have the kind of money that they would need to revamp it. When we have the kind of money was when oil was selling for $120, $140 per barrel. We couldn't do it. Now, when oil is selling between $30, $40, and $50, somebody's expecting us to do the things that should have been done when oil was selling for
over $100.
Over $100. Don't forget too that when people tell you, oh, why can't we do it? It is because, putting it clearly, it is because when crude oil is selling for that price and you are not refining, it means that whatever price it is selling for outside, you will still sell your crude and buy at the going rate. So you don't even still have your local consumption. So if it was like oil is selling for $60 per barrel, so when you sell, you make profit of that $60, then it will be okay. But this one, you make the profit of $60 and still buy at the prevailing market rate. So what it means clearly is that there's no money to do anything that needs to be done, which is why government is borrowing money up and down. To the National Theatre, the abandonment is becoming so much that the decay was just going to erode whatever purpose the National Theatre was for. And nobody was ready to. So most of the people who were bidding to take National Theatre were bidding to take the place, not because of development of the National Theatre, but because of the land that is around it. So most people were bidding to take the National Theatre, then the land around it will then build all kinds of estates and all of that and begin to make money from real estate and property development, which is not what this banking consortium is about. The banking consortium is about taking the place, adding value to the National Theatre, lifting it up to the standards, international standards, but within that time, develop the surrounding areas with the monorail track that is passing by it. Then it will look like O2 in London. So that is the plan. And because you do not want one person to then take over this project, a consortium was then driven by the central bank. Now, when people heard it, you know, Nigerians also like very sensitive news. And they said federal government is going to spend 20-something billion. Federal government has given a concession to this consortium, and the consortium will come up with that money to build it and develop the whole place. So it is not the federal government that is putting the money there, but come to look at it. The purpose of this intervention by CBN is for it to be done quickly with private partnership and handed over later. So it's a build, operate, and transfer arrangement. But I think that we all get the message now, because I think it was just poor information, poor information dissemination.
Yeah, I think it's very clear what you said, and thank you for taking us to history of that whole military display and all building that. But yes, it's an edifice that anytime you pass through that it's very unique, symbolic edifice and hub for the thriving entertainment and arts industry. And also, I just wanted to ask, the central bank has also talked about its interventions in the creative industry. I don't know if your colleagues have been able to assess it, because also it's part of the things they've touted as part of interventions they're rolling out to the sectors of the economy.
Okay, you know, the CFA is for strategic sectors: information technology, fashion, and movies. So the direction of the project is just clear, and it's just a first-time intervention process. So they expanded into other sectors later, but they're picking on these first four to work on. The information technology area that they're going in is that because these days information IT is driving everything. So, which is why they are investing in that one. And you heard that the Paystack guys were from Nigeria here, and they made some huge money. So it means that you have a lot more projects like that. Amazon Prime, Netflix, and a lot of them are driven on the back of IT. And so, which is why the CBN decided to invest in that sector. So, fashion, people must wear clothes, people must look good. And for the kind of sector that we have and the creativity that is inside, you cannot but agree that the intervention of CBN is for it to help employ more people. And then for music and movies, you can also bet that our music is going to every corner of the earth. And with our movies, we are the second largest producers of movies, and we need to then have this crystallized into a better GDP and earning power for the people who create content. So CBN has been involved in that. So for my colleagues who are in the creative industry, we've encouraged a lot of those to begin to prepare. But don't forget that, like I mentioned from the beginning, we are not a structured sector. And because we're not a structured sector, only a few who already understand what international business language is and international business culture is, have managed to assess all of that. So like a Moabudu, like the IMAX group and all of those people, they already know what to do and to access all of that. The other people need to be taught and need to be carried along. And I think that is where, so it is about education first. So educate the people to know what they need. Yeah, what they need. For comedians, I can say without fear of argument that the comedians are doing quite well. Comedians are doing quite well. If it were not for this COVID, we already started branching out into foreign countries, from the UK to Canada to Ghana to Dubai, to perform all our shows and carry other comedians along. So we're doing very well in that area. Then again, you would also agree that 70% of the coping mechanism that people are enjoying right now is from the skits that comedians are putting up online to help people cope with the stress of COVID and the lockdown. We have come through. We have come through, and I believe that the intervention of CBN with the CFI is that they will still get involved in other sectors. But for now, they started with just those four.
All right. And then I know that you are not advocates every time you have the opportunity to speak at various forums in the country and abroad. You always talk about the need to address issues like piracy and even the distribution channels and the policy bottlenecks that limit the growth of the industry. Were those issues highlighted in your committee reports? I know not just at the federal level, you're also involved in the Lagos Arts Committee. Were those things highlighted so that even at the subnational level, state governments can also support to address these issues and help the artists and the creative industry thrive?
I think the biggest problem is information, awareness, and education. People, especially policymakers, are not still aware of the impact that the sector can play in the growth of the economy. And because of that, they have neglected a lot of things that they should have done. If this policy about piracy, royalties, and development of the sector were taken seriously, it would have been treated like the petroleum sector.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at it. Piracy is taking something that doesn't belong to you. So if you go to take crude oil that belongs to the government, they come after you.
Yeah.
Why do they come after you? Because you are stealing something that doesn't belong to you, that belongs to the national purse. So it's the same thing with creative products. If I have a creative product and you then come and steal it, then it's theft. That said, what has government done to stop the people who are stealing? And we have very archaic laws that just slap the people on the wrist. So somebody takes another person's products or creative works, makes 200 million or 150 million, depending on how well his distribution network is. And he makes that money. And then you arrest him and he pays 20,000 naira as fine. You see, if it were possible for you to lock such person up, confiscate all the properties that he has, it would be a deterrent to every other person.
Yeah.
Now, the policies need to be rejigged. Government needs to look into it and see how to provide support. Well, during the time of Oronto Douglas, we have submitted a proposal, myself and Amaka Igwe submitted a proposal that said we need an anti-piracy mobile police squad, as you have the anti-riot mobile police squad, and you need an anti-piracy mobile police squad that doesn't even need to be funded by government. By the time they go out and arrest all the people who are, want of a better word, who are stealing creative works and pirating them, they'll make so much money from those people that they can run the agency without government financial intervention.
Yeah.
But you see, government still needs to look, like I mentioned to the minister, you need to see that you do not need to give the money to the police. By the time they've made like 12 arrests, and from all the monies that are gathered, it's like they can run themselves. So those are the policies, and awareness needs to be created. Just as much as you are creating awareness that people should not steal, people should not carry drugs, you need to drive that kind of awareness as well for the creative sector, for people to benefit from it, because it employs the second largest employer of labor. And so you need to protect that.
Yeah, and as we wrap up, this sector is a big exporter of services, like you said. PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, the big global professional services firm, says the future, Nigeria will be a key player in the entertainment and media space between now and 2025. Also, how do we leverage further this industry? Like what Ethiopia is doing. Ethiopia in its jobs and economic plan is keen into their creative industry to drive jobs and also support its economic diversification. I mean, just look at the things happening recently. The movie Omogeto making strides. Burna Boy nominated for a Grammy, and even Fela Nicola Pukuti of blessed memory also nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. These are exports from the creative industry, making impact. And of course, people like you that have been in the pay theater and the comedy industry. So how do we leverage this, working with the trade ministry and the industry, and even our diplomats, to showcase the opportunities and strengthen trade, even as the African Continental Free Trade Agreement is taking shape?
One time during my conversation with the Honorable Minister, I said, sir, do you know why our footballers are shining everywhere? I said, because we organize African Nations Cup, we organize friendly matches, and we make sure that they take part in the World Cup. That's showcasing our players, and we then groom them so that they can become major players in the international scene. How do we do the same thing for the creative sector? Since you can organize matches, take part, and make sure you take them to African Nations Cup, is it possible to make sure that artists like Bruzuno Brakbeya and the rest of them show in international space as your representatives? Is it possible for, when it is Ken's festival and there's a movie festival anywhere, to sponsor some people there, just as you sponsor the Super Eagles to go play matches? You sponsor these people to go to those places. The other thing is, we do not have a proper structured capacity building program. So cinematographers still have to learn by association. There are still no schools for cinematography, as large as this industry is. Theater art is the closest, or mass communication is the closest that you get to work in this sector. You have an advertising industry that is in billions. Billions. We still have to go shoot some adverts in South Africa.
Yeah, South Africa.
And India. So why? Because the sector is not grown and developed. The enabling environment is not created. Till date, if you carry a camera to go and shoot something that will promote the Nigerian culture, and you take the camera to somewhere like Surulere, or this area, boys will arrest you. But you see, if you go to New York and any of all those places to record those kind of things, they are very happy because they know wherever you show it, people will know that you're showing something about their culture and their environment. It's also part of the promotion of those countries. We need to develop our people. The mindset is still a mindset of come and chop. Our politicians are making things worse. For us to achieve the greatness that we have to achieve in this country, our politicians have to change their mindset.
Yeah.
They have to change their mindset. Look at what Dubai is doing. Dubai is doing everything possible to make sure people come to Dubai. There's nothing Dubai has that we don't have. They have deserts. They've built it into an economic value that is proportionate to crude oil. Their tourism sector is strong. What do we have? We have deserts that are abandoned. And in fact, that you are threatened to even go to. Meanwhile, we have such expanse of land that, we have culture that is protected by ignorance.
Yeah.
A culture protected by ignorance do not grow, cannot grow. And so those kind of cultures that you then say, okay, they bring something like a Miss World to hold in Nigeria. And your people say, no, it can't happen. And then they shut it down. They said, just recently, an actress was, I think they said they were going to flog her for being part of a movie. Meanwhile, you are an Islamic, you profess Islam. The Islamic country like Dubai is welcoming people to do the same thing that you are killing people for. So it's a mindset thing. And so we believe that there's a lot of room for that, but we need to start from school, education. Don't forget that the currency for communication is still English language.
Yeah.
The currency for communication is still English language. And when 90% of your people can't speak it, it means that 90% of the people will remain uneducated. Why? There's no chemistry textbook in Igbo language. There is no book in broadcasting in Ijo. So the Ijo boy that wants to become a broadcaster has to learn English. So what it means is that give them the basic fundamentals. Let them know how to read and write. And once people know how to read and write, convincing them to get better by getting educated becomes easy.
I think that's very clear. And really thank you very much, Mr. Atunyota Akpobome, alias Alibaba, for these insights. And we look forward to the outcome of your committee, the COVID-19 committee on the arts and entertainment industry, seeing what happens to the creative space. Hopefully, this intervention will be holistic, like you said. And indeed, the need for policymakers, and not just policymakers, our legislators at the National Assembly level and even state, to get our education to understand the value of the creative industry in driving our economy, not just diversification, but revenue diversification. And definitely, we'll get better strides in the sector. But for you, we appreciate all your efforts, particularly being a pacesetter at the commercial industry.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Of our industry. And hope to have
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Once again.
Have a wonderful, enjoy the rest of the day.
And you too. Thank you. So that was Mr. Atunyota Akpobome, A.K.A Alibaba, you know him, the pacesetter in the Nigerian comedy industry and also a creative industry expert, giving us perspective on what we must do quickly to unlock the growth potentials in the creative industry in the country. You can join our conversation. You can watch more of this. Log on to our website, www.proshenji.com. And when you get there, you scroll to the right-hand bar, click on arts and finance. That's where you have some interesting stories on what's happening in the creative industry as it relates to economy and finance. Also, visit our website to get further insight on the videos, Economy and Politics show. You get all the videos that we've had so far discussing the economy. Also, if you have comments or questions around how we can unlock the creative industry space, send your comments and views to news@proshenji.com. We'll be glad to respond to them appropriately, and also follow our social media platforms playing on the screen. Of course, for our guest, Alibaba, you know him is a celebrity, well known in the country and across the globe. His Twitter handle is Alibaba GCFR. We'll get to know further why that GCFR is there, but at Alibaba GCFR is his Twitter handle. You can always engage him, and he has a lot of insights on the industry. Thank you for being part of this show, and don't forget that in this period, you need to stay safe. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.